Our story begins with a quote. The word emo has survived and flourished in 3 decades, 2 millenniums, and 2 Bush administrations. It's older than 5 former Yugoslav republics, the last 7 national spelling champions, and Avril Lavigne. It's older than most of its fans. It's been the next big thing twice, the current big thing once, and so totally over millions of times. And yet, not only can no one agree on what it means, there is not now, nor has there ever been, a single major band that admits to being emo. Not one. Well, pretty insightful, but that was only 2003. What year is it? Let me check my diary for a sec. Alright, it's... With all that's going on, I bet the teens are as sad and emo as they get. It's probably entirely Zoomers who are responsible for this renewed interest anyway. But to truly understand what's going on, as always, we'll have to go back. The 21st century, a brand new era. It seemed almost magical to see the number on the calendar start with a 2 instead of the good old 1. It was like the future was finally here, but not all that glitters is gold. With global tensions rising and the internet's growth into a major aspect of globalization and society in general, how would the culture of the new millennium look like? Oh boy, it's the 2000s. Time to listen to some T-Pain and Linkin Park while browsing MySpace blogs on my thick-ass monitor. What's on TV? Trashy reality shows and a bunch of drama, I guess. What do the kids like? Emo music. How did that happen? Wasn't that meant for college indie dorks and hardcore dudes? Well, apparently not, because now every other teenager is ripping off the aesthetics of their favorite sad pop punk band. So, what happened? Well, emo found a way to market itself to mainstream audiences. You can probably thank these albums for it. What's so special about them? Well, aside from just being really good, they made the sound of emo more accessible than ever. OG emo bands like Mineral, Captain Jazz, and Rites of Spring rock, but their sound is undeniably more on the raw and lo-fi side, and that usually doesn't fly on the mainstream radar. These newer late 90s, early 2000s band had higher production value and more flair than was common in the genre at the time. The Promise Ring managed to tone down the sound of Midwest emo and mold it into powerful pop anthems. The Get Up Kids and Jimmy Eat World put out incredibly slick, well-composed and innovative albums, while Thursday was popularizing the darker, more aggressive take on the genre. But here, have a listen for yourself. This was basically the setup for emo's breakthrough, along with the rising popularity of pop-punk at the time. This third wave of emo, as some call it, captured and defined the zeitgeist of the 2000s, and sort of got absorbed into the mainstream of the time eventually, and became easily identifiable with the decade, despite its origins in the mid-80s DC hardcore scene. Before we go any further, we must understand what a subculture even is. Most definitions you'll see are pretty vague. What they all essentially say is that a subculture is a group, social, ethnic, regional, or otherwise, that is distinct enough in terms of traits and behavior that it can be distinguished from the larger society and culture it exists within. When you look into past subcultures like greasers and punks, it's kinda obvious how they would fit into this definition with the lifestyle, music, and cultural background associated with them. But today, the lines seem blurrier than ever, really. The newer subcultures are often invisible to outsiders, online-focused, less defined, and quick to be jumped on by the mainstream. This is why subcultures seem to be declining. Most subcultures that are still prevalent today did not originate in the 21st century. Researching subcultures from the 2010s, I couldn't help but be kind of disappointed that pretty much every single resource leads to either stuff that has been around for a while, or stuff that's more like an aesthetic or style of dress than a subculture. The Wikipedia article about the history of modern Western subcultures even lists bullshit like edgelords and niche memers as a subculture. Oh man, can't wait for people to join my surreal Shrek Columbine core subculture. I bet that would be the next big thing, guys. The only thing that comes close is like the e-girl, e-boy thing. I'm not really sure if it's a subculture or not, mainly because it's not really about anything aside from the Scene 2.0 aesthetic and the influence of the Chinese Communist TikTok. Whoops, slip of the tongue. It might seem like the days of the subculture are over and gone, like everyone is so unique that nobody is, but I'm a bit more optimistic about the future actually, which brings us to... So, let's backtrack to the original question of this video. Was emo the last subculture, or at least the last real one? Born and reborn twice, or possibly even thrice if you're willing to count the newer sad rap wave, it was the last subculture made of CDs and vinyl and grimy underground shows instead of like social media. So, in a way, yeah, it might be the last subculture of its kind for a while. Our culture and reality have shifted in such a way that it's sort of hard to imagine something new like emo spreading throughout the globe like an edgy blessing on the beaten and the damned everywhere. As I've said already, emo and other subcultures still exist and all, but it seems that these so-called 21st century subcultures are just a countless chain of general fads and aesthetics that either fade away or become part of the mainstream, which is kinda the same thing. I personally think that these things go round and round. Call it the subcultural pendulum, if you will. Right now we're in a position where the mainstream is very influential, and there aren't really any notable counter-movements to it. Sort of reminds me of the circumstances under which punk or the hippie movement were born. So I can't help but to think that the tide will shift again towards a rejection of what's fake, manufactured and shallow in our time. That's just my opinion, of course, and only months and years will tell, but that's the general direction I think we're headed. So yeah, that pretty much sums it up for this video. If you're interested, I made a Spotify playlist to go along with this video. It's a mixed playlist of all waves of emo, from its origins in DC through the Midwest and early screamo bands, all the way up to emo pop and mallcore, with some of my favorite emo revival bands sprinkled in. I know it's been quite a while since my last upload. I haven't had the time to follow through on my plans for this channel, but right now I'm free and currently working on a bunch of projects I think you may like. So please consider subscribing and sticking around for what's to come. I was Eden from NotAimingForTheTruck. See ya, Space Cowboys.